During my younger years, I was living in the Philippines and some in the US. I have been sensitive to the paranormal, especially on my teenage years. One night, I was woke by a huge sound of thunder and rain. I noticed that it was only me and other two brothers in the room. We had two rooms. One room was for me, my other three brothers, my mom, and my dad sleeps. The second room is for our houseboy or helper. That night my parents aren't home and my youngest brother wasn't with us in the room. I got up from the bed and walked out of the room and tried to look for them. It was still thundering with flashes of lightning and our house is dimly lit by lights in the kitchen. As I walked towards our kitchen, I saw our houseboy sitting Indian style in the middle of the kitchen. He was staring at me with red, glowing eyes. I wasn't afraid because I don't know about ghosts or paranormal. It just strikes me as odd that he was sitting that way and staring at me while sitting still. I never paid attention, so I ignored him. I went back to our family bedroom and back to sleep. Nothing happened to me that night, but I did ask my parents where they went at morning. They haven't answered my questions back then and kept quiet. As for the helper, I didn't ask him what he was doing since I thought he was just doing his thing that night and minding his own business. Now here's where it gets interesting. Maybe around a few years after that incident when I was a little bit older, and since I still recall that day, I asked again my mom what happened that night. This is their story that finally she told me. Apparently that night my youngest brother got sick with really high fever. They called a tricycle cab. It's like a motorcycle but has a passenger side for mode of transportation when hired. My mom and dad with my youngest brother are finally going to the hospital. They noticed the man kept on going a different route, a longer route, somewhat like avoiding the path through a church. We live on a subdivision where they have to pass through a church to get out of the subdivision. But in this particular case, this man went to the back road, away from the church to the hospital. It started raining and thundering. My mom prayed. She was already annoyed at the driver. She insisted to head for the hospital that instant. They finally reached the hospital, and when they were going to pay the fare, my parents looked at the driver, and at one split second, they noticed his face morphed into like a demon, like being with a scary grin at them. My parents got shocked and prayed and went inside the hospital. I wondered what happened to me that night with the boy. I sure remembered his red, glowing eyes staring at me.